What's up guys, it's Talon. Today we're going to be having our video be about win conditions and just understanding how you can win the game more by playing more heavily towards those win conditions. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so first I just kind of want to explain what a win condition is and like why it's so important. So I mean, obviously, pretty straightforward. The win condition is essentially whatever it is that needs to happen for you to win games. And this is, again, a pretty simple thing, but it's actually quite important to understand because oftentimes people will make plays without the win condition in mind, and then even if it seems like a net positive play, it's not actually providing anything in terms of what you need to win the game, and you're just kind of doing some useless stuff. Some examples of this are like pushing top lane turret, which is generally going to be like a pretty good thing, just pushing the turret and trying to take it, but doing that when you're a tank champion and your bot lane is like a very strong carry duo that you really need to get ahead so that they can win the late game really well. Things like this just need to be understood, and then also understanding the enemy's win conditions so that you can counter that and not allow them to do that. And just generally, if you're thinking more in the context of what am I actually going to do to win this game, rather than is this a good individual play, it just puts things into perspective and really allows you to just be able to get more wins and just understand the game better overall. So I'm just going to go through some examples in various games when what the win condition is, how I play towards that, and how my gameplay changes based on the individual game and the win conditions of those games. Okay guys, so the first kind of win condition that I want to talk about is when you have the stronger early lane. So in this matchup, we definitely have a much stronger early game with Lucian Nami. So our goal is to snowball the game early on. So we're going to be very aggressive in lane, taking a lot of trades and playing much more aggressive. Whereas say we were the enemy, we would just be playing passive and just poking and waiting for us to make mistakes. So this lane actually started off with Lucian dying because we just went a bit too aggressive. However, that does not mean that we can't keep being aggressive because once again, we know that this lane matchup is good for us. So we're going to continue to play aggressive and try to push our early game advantage into some kills. And we're going to do this frequently. We're going to get plenty of kills this lane. And we're really going to snowball the game off of this lead. So initially understanding that when you have the early game advantage in lane, this can be in top lane, in mid lane, this can even be in the jungle, really trying to push that lead against the late game comps that aren't as strong early game, because again, if we were to get to the late game against the Swain and Ezreal, it would be very difficult for us as a dual lane to do much because of how much stronger they are in the late game than us. So we really want to push those advantages early so that they're not able to get to that point and we're able to snowball the game before that really happens. And that definitely does happen in this game where we're able to snowball. I believe our scoreline is something like 8-0, 12 or something really high, where we end up just snowballing the game before they're really able to get to a couple items and really scale up. So again, just understanding when you have the early game advantage, you definitely have to try to push that as much as possible. Now that said, sometimes even if you're an early game champion, the lane just goes poorly and you mess up. And when that happens, you do still have to be patient and understand that I made some mistakes. I might have to give up on this lane. I might just have to try to scale up into the late game and just hope my teammates carry. So just as much as it's important to understand that you got to play around your early advantage, if it ends up going poorly, don't try to overforce anything at the same time. Okay guys, so now I want to talk about what to do when the game looks really dire. So in this game is like looking completely unwinnable. All we have is a Jax split pushing, and that's really our only possible way of winning. So we're going to play extremely heavily towards that, trying to distract them for as long as possible, while Jax, as you can see in the bottom lane, is ending up pushing the bottom lane turret really well while we're distracting the rest of them. So you can see here, I'm going to completely disregard my life to stop their backs long enough to just try to get us to be able to get the bot lane and win through bot lane. Just because I know there's absolutely no way that we can win otherwise because of how far behind we are. It might not look like we're that far behind, but trust me guys, we are. And so our only win condition is going to be this Jax split pushing, and he actually probably could have ended here if he ended up hitting the tower more. But regardless of that fact, what's really important to note here is just at some point the games are going to look unwinnable, and when that game looks unwinnable, identify like the only possible way you have of winning. So in this case, we're like, okay, Jax is the only way we're going to win. I'm just literally going to disregard my life just to try to give him a few extra seconds to hit that nexus. So you see here, I again went up and I stopped all of their backs, and a few things go right and we end up winning this game that was completely lost otherwise. So again, just once the game looks completely unwinnable, that's when you're really going to want to do something like this, where you just YOLO for the nexus or whatever, you go flip a random Baron, just do something crazy that's probably going to end up in you losing because there's that small chance that you end up winning. And you're going to see here again, I know the game's not won, so I'm going to bottom lane and I'm just hoping that my Jax TPs to me and that we somehow win off of this, even though it's extremely unlikely. So You're going to see Jax TPing me in a second because of where I went. I try to clear this lane as fast as possible, and I possibly could have done something else here to get the minions to come in faster. If I just hit the minions a bit longer, I just thought my wave clear is not enough, so I don't end up hitting those 2 cannons, and I hope my Jax does it. Doesn't end up doing it, and again, we don't end the game, but this was really the thought process, you know. We either end on that split push or we just lose the game quickly, because we're just not going to win if we just simply wait back and hope that they make mistakes, because we're just too far behind in that case. Okay guys, so I just thought I'd quickly mention, so normally most of my clips are from like Grandmaster Plus games, but this one's going to end up just being from me having some fun on my Emerald account for a bit. But it's still a very important thing to note, which is oftentimes as a hyper carry champion like a Tristana, if you end up getting an early lead and your team's not doing super well, prioritizing your own gold rather than fighting a lot is usually going to be very good in terms of a win condition. Overly trying to chase the enemy and fighting instead of farming up for yourself and getting to certain items is usually going to be pretty bad on most ADCs when you end up getting a big lead early on, especially these late game carries like Tristana. So what you're going to see I'm going to do here is literally go and take my entire jungle. And I wouldn't do this in a higher elo, I wouldn't really take the red buff, but I take the red buff because my jungler, he's not super high elo, he's not really understanding that he needs to be farming this, so instead I'm just like, okay, I'll just take his whole jungle. I'm completely fine with taking the jungle as a hyper carry like Tristana. I see my teammates are kind of having like a possible fight there, but I don't care. I'm just gonna back for my item. I'm gonna go farm another jungle camp. Again, I see topside my teammates are fighting, but I don't care. Once again, I'd rather get golden myself because I know that the way we're gonna win this game is through me getting really fed, not through having a random fight in top lane and just praying that it works out well. Now, of course, if I thought that my presence would guarantee the fight is a win, then I would rotate. But based on how the fight looked, I thought that it's not unlikely that we lose it even if I'm there. So instead, I go mid lane, I get farm, I again clear my teammate's jungle. I go to bot lane because I see another wave. And I know that their jungler is dead, so I know they can't do the Baron, so I'm not worried about them getting Baron or anything like that. And you can see my gold is extremely high here in comparison to pretty much everyone. I'm just focusing on farming because I know I get like 4 items, I end up winning the game. It's that simple. And you know, as the game goes on, we do end up winning. I think I make a really dumb death here at some point, but again, I'm just permanently farming at all times. Yeah, this is my really dumb death. I don't know what I was doing here, but anyways, I farm up a lot, get really strong, get a ton of kills, and I just keep getting farm on myself. I take the enemy jungle, I take my jungle, all of that type of stuff. And yeah, just really understanding, you know, when you're the win condition, farm up, take the jungle camps, don't go to dumb fights, just get yourself a lead. And yeah, that's about it. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know what you thought about this video. Just want to reiterate again, what's really important to note is just how are you actually going to end up winning this game, you know, whatever game you're playing in. So whether that be playing for yourself, farming up a lot, or the opposite, really rotating and helping out whoever your carries are. Just thinking in general more about what's actually going to win me this game so you don't make these useless wastes of time that aren't actually valuable in the specific game that you're playing is really going to help you understand kind of how to win more games, and I feel like will help you guys just in general get a lot more wins. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any suggestions for future content in the comments below, let me know. Again, you know, if you ever want coaching, feel free to DM me on Discord for that, and I'll see you guys later.